Subic Bay. For decades, it was the beating heart of American sea power in Asia. Then, it went quiet. Or did it? Tonight, we ask a question that's making Beijing very nervous. Why is the Philippines quietly rebuilding Subic into its largest naval stronghold? And what storm is this base meant to face? Welcome to GeoFrontline, where we decode the moves that decide tomorrow. Subic isn't just a map point, it's a maritime choke, commanding access to the South China Sea, the Luzon Strait, and shipping lanes that carry a third of global trade. When the U.S. Navy left in the 1990s, many assumed the story was over. But Manila never forgot what Subic means in a crisis. And as China's coercion escalated from ramming to water cannon attacks, the Philippines made a decision: rebuild the shield. In 2022, a U.S. private equity firm, Cerberus, took over the massive Hanjin shipyard, rebranding it the Agila Subic Multi-Use Facilities, the northern portion, leased by the Philippine Navy. Quietly, methodically, piece by piece, Subic's military sinews started to flex again. Reports this year go further. The Philippine Navy is activating new bases, including Subic Bay, to support modernization. Logistics, maintenance, repair, and forward basing. Not fanfare, not speeches, just the kind of work you do when you're preparing for the long haul. And then came a signal that the old naval fortress is returning with a 21st century twist. Manila is weighing the conversion of Grande and Chiquita Islands, outposts at the mouth of Subic, into a military reservation. Why those islands? Vantage, surveillance, and Saline control. Eyes on Scarborough Shoal, deterrence across the West Philippine Sea, and a shield over the Subic Freeport and Airport. In plain English, locks on the gate. But Subic is not a Philippine project alone. It's a magnet for allied strategy. The U.S.-Philippine EDCA network, 9 sites from Palawan to northern Luzon, already funnels funding, prepositioning, and rotational presence. Subic isn't listed as an EDCA site. It doesn't need to be. It's the maritime hub that ties the network together, where ships pull in, stores are loaded, hulls are repaired, and fleets are readied. Think arteries and heart. Subic is the pump. U.S. planners are candid about what they need next. Big storage and sustainment in the Philippines by 2026. Fuel, munitions, spare parts, because deterrence isn't a speech. It's inventory. Where do you stage that? The conversation keeps circling back to a familiar, deep-water name. So, let's put the pieces together. The Navy leasing at Agila Subic. The planned activation of a naval base in Subic Bay. The move to militarize the Gateway Islands. The Allied logistics push. This isn't noise, it's architecture. A layered maritime fortress built to deter, to sustain, and, if deterrence fails, to fight and recover. Who is this fortress meant to face? Watch the pattern at sea. Chinese Coast Guard swarms, militia shadows, and dangerous close-aboard maneuvers that try to make harassment feel normal. Manila's answer is not escalation. It's coalition, bringing in the US, Japan, Australia, France, and more to sail, drill, and build together. Subic is where that coalition can live, not just visit. But let's ask the hard question. If the Philippines rebuilds Subic at scale, does it become a target? The uncomfortable truth is that weakness is the first target. The logic of Subic is the logic of credible deterrence. Deny a quick win, raise the cost of coercion, and create enough resiliency that a crisis never looks tempting in the first place. That's why you invest in deep draft piers, dry docks, magazines, and rapid repair. Ships that can leave, fight, return, rearm, and sail again, change an adversary's math. There's also an economic flank to this story. Subic's commercial revival, Hyundai gearing up shipbuilding, foreign tenants returning, doesn't compete with the naval build-out, it feeds it. Dual-use infrastructure, cranes, yards, supply chains, keeps costs down and readiness up. For Manila, it's sovereignty with jobs. For allies, it's sustainment without delay. Beijing will call this militarization. But the facts are simple. The Philippines is restoring its base on its soil to defend its waters. Under a 2016 ruling that invalidated China's sweeping claims and in lockstep with a mutual defense treaty that has kept the peace for generations. Subic is not a provocation. It's a promise that Manila will not be isolated at sea again. Stay with the timeline and you'll see the strategy forming. Rotational Allied forces flowing through EDCA airfields. Northern Luzon sites anchoring the Taiwan contingency. Palawan sites guarding the Kalayaan Island group. And Subic, the maritime brain, coordinating, repairing, and surging power into contested waters. Add the possible militarization of the Subic Gateway Islands and you get layered sensors, faster response, and credible control of the approaches. This is deterrence you can map. Now the suspense you promised your audience. How far will Manila go? Quietly, the answer is farther than before. Not to start a fight, but to ensure one doesn't start because of Philippine vulnerability. The Navy's steady activation at Subic, the long-range plan for storage and sustainment, and the Allied drumbeat of joint presence are converging. When the weather turns rough, you don't argue with the storm, you bolt the harbor. In the end, this isn't just about rebuilding a base. It's about restoring freedom of action to a frontline democracy. Subic is how the Philippines says to friends and rivals alike, we are ready. We are not alone, and the sea lines will stay open. This is GeoFrontline, decoding power, exposing strategy, and keeping you a step ahead. If you found this valuable, stay with us. The next moves around Subic will be decisive.